Steven, Nikon's finally announcing it. And I don't even care. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is Steven, a preview, right?
Yep.
What we're calling it a preview of the Nikon D6. Now, before I jump into that announcement, there is a surprise lens announcement from Nikon that we will get to in a couple of minutes, so stick around for that because I was surprised as hell when I saw what they're going to come out with. So let's talk about the D6. So what do we know? Well, not much. Why? Because this is a development announcement. Nikon has made development announcements in the past where they announce that they're developing something, and my answer to that collectively, Steven, is no shit. You're supposed to say it with me. Everybody at home was like, no shit. Steven didn't say it. He was thinking it. I could see it on his face. So when Nikon does a development announcement, it means they're going to come out with something one day. It's kind of similar to when they said they're coming out with a a battery grip for the Z6 and Z7. That was a development announcement. How's that one doing, Steven?
It's not out yet.
It's not out yet, and it probably never will be because it was stupid. So here's what we know about the D6 other than nothing. There's a picture. Now let's look at the picture and compare it to the D5 and see what has changed. In the top right-hand corner, it looks like it's taller where those buttons are and where some dials are. It's taller in the D6 rather than the D5. Now up in the middle where it looks like a flash could pop up, which I doubt it's a flash, I probably think that that is where a Wi-Fi unit might go. I don't think you'll see GPS in the camera because there's really no reason to put GPS in the camera, in my opinion, but I think that's where the Wi-Fi module will go. They don't have that in a D5, and by the way, they never came out with a D5S, so they just skipped that model to work on the D6 right here. I think Wi-Fi would be smart to put in it because every other camera has Wi-Fi today. One of the only other differences that we spotted between the two is bottom left-hand side, it looks like the thumb grip for shooting vertical is a little bit bigger. It protrudes out to the side more, so maybe it's going to be different ergonomics than the D5. But other than that, it looks basically like the same exact camera. Now, the rumors also say you might see IBIS in it. Now, IBIS would make sense for video in a DSLR because the mirror flips out of the way and then you can stabilize it. Unless I'm completely off base here, I don't know how you could stabilize a DSLR when you are shooting photos because the mirror is here, so I don't know what the sensor would have to do in order to stabilize it. Now, before anybody says, well, Sony did this, they had a DSLR that had stabilization in it. They had a fixed pellicle mirror. What that means is that the mirror stays like this and you shoot straight through it, which means it doesn't have to go out of the way, and you could possibly use that to stabilize the image better. Let me jump in here real quick and say, would you like a free guide to capturing motion in low light situations? Well, if so, go over to the website, look for this orange box, put your name, email address in it, and I will send you that guide for free right now. Now, I have nothing else to go on because Nikon didn't supply us any specs, but what I will say is that this might be the greatest Nikon Pro DSLR ever made. But does anybody really care? Because we are living in a mirrorless world, not a material world. I almost said material. We are there at the mirrorless world. Just like the F6 was the last film pro camera that you saw from Nikon, the D6 has to be the last DSLR Pro camera that you're going to see, and it comes on around the 20th anniversary of them releasing the D1. Now, many of you guys know that I am a Nikon shooter, and I owned everything from a D2H all the way up to the D5, which I sold about a month ago. It was my last Pro DSLR, just like the video I made a couple months ago. It sold. Why did I sell it? Because it was going to lose all of its value by the time Nikon ever came out with, which we don't even know yet, a mirrorless Pro high-end version that I would want. So what did I replace it with? Well, when I need to do shoots where the D5 was what I was going to take, the A9 is what I'm using. This is a fantastic camera, and honestly, by the time that the A9 II comes out, probably in the next 6 months, it's going to blow out of the water the Nikon D6. And it's probably going to be about $2,000 less. Now, I think that the D6 will probably come out sometime in February or March. It's coming out for the Olympics in 2020. They're going to get people prepped and ready to use them because there's a lot of sports photographers that still use the DSLRs. So I think they're still going to want to purchase this, but it's going to come at a price. I'm going to guess that it's going to be right around $69.99.95, $7,000 for that bad boy. So when the D6 does officially get announced, we will do an official preview with all of the specs, and I will get my hands on one to do a real world review because why not? I still want to use this camera to see how it is, but what do you think the specs are going to be? Leave them down below with what your guesses are. But now let's talk about the surprise lens announcement that I didn't see coming. It's a 120mm to 300mm f2.8 EFLED SR-VR. I don't know what the SR is. Nikon didn't get back to me, letting me know that what it is. SR's new. I'm assuming it has something to do with focus, but I don't know. This is a 120 to 300mm f2.8 all the way through. It looks cool. The zoom rings out on the outside, by the way, and I'm assuming that this lens will not zoom outside of its body. It's going to be internal focus and zoom is what I have to guess. Now, this would have been the ultimate sports lens, 10 years ago. Now, Sigma has already had out 120 to 300mm 2.8 lenses in the past. They were heavy at 7.5 pounds, and they cost right around $3,500, but you can pick one up new for $500 off, so right around $3,100 right now. That was an interesting lens to have out on the sidelines of an event. My problem with this lens is that it's an F lens. It's not designed for the mirrorless cameras. It is a fantastic idea, but I'm venturing to say that it's going to be over $4,000, something like $4,500 if I had to guess based off of what a 300 2.8 VR2 goes for. It's just going to be a super expensive lens that will still be fantastic paired with a D6, but it's not the future. It's not a Z lens. Surprising as hell that it took them this long to come out with something like that. It's going to be interesting, but you also have a 200 to 500 that's about $1,200, though it's not a 2.8. I still will be interested to try this out, and you know what? I hope that they can give us one at the time that we have the D6 to make a real-world review, because maybe I'll not be all in on mirrorless anymore and go back to using a DSLR. No way in hell. So it's pretty interesting, 120 to 300mm 2.8. Would you spend $4,500 on a lens like that? I don't know. Let me know down below. Let me jump in here real quick and say I will be announcing an official back-to-school sale in the next couple of weeks, but I did already activate the code BTS19. If you would like to take advantage of it, this is a first look for you guys. It is available for 43% off any of my video guides. Go on over to FroKnowsPhoto.com/guides right now to take advantage of the code BTS19. And finally, something that is not a development announcement, it's an official announcement of a lens coming out. The Nikon Z 24mm 1.8S lens. Like, we didn't know it was coming because it was already on the roadmap. Well, it is officially here, and it really helps round out their prime 1.8 lenses for the Z Space 6 and the Z Space 7. You have a 24-1.8, 35-1.8, you have a 50-1.8, and an 85-1.8. By the way, we got all of those right there except for the 24, because the 85 just came in the mail, which we will do a review of at some point and let you know how it is. Now, I was a big basher of these lenses before using them, of the 1.8S line, because Nikon talked about we have 1.2 capability, which means they can make 1.4s also, but all they focused on right now is making 1.8s. Now, they are sharper, they are faster focusing, they are super light, but they're also super expensive. Now think about it. This 24 1.8S lens is going to come out at $999.95. It's the most expensive prime lens that Nikon has for the Z mount system up until this point, because the 58 Noct hasn't been announced officially yet, and I don't know if we'll ever actually see that lens, because they should really kill it off, because nobody needs a manual focus 58mm 0.95. Now that I got that out of the way, this is an expensive lens because the Nikon 24 1.8 comes in at $676 for the F mount. But the Sony 24-1.4 comes in at $1,400, and the Nikon 24 1.4, which I own, by the way, for the F mount, comes in at $1,800. But personally, even though I bashed those lenses for a while, I rather use the 1.8s than adapt the old 1.4s that I have, because I think they're sharper, faster, edge, and much sharper edge to edge, and they're lighter. Imagine carrying that kit around with the Z6. Yes, they're expensive, but they are super light. Just think about this though. When Nikon does come out with a 24-1.4, how expensive is that gonna be for the Z system? The lenses for the Z systems are more expensive, but it's more expensive across the board for Sony, for Canon, for Nikon. But maybe it's Sigma and Tamron who come along with native glass for the Z systems, like they're doing now for the Sony mount. Maybe that's going to be the future for people to start using less expensive, but still super good quality glass from a third-party manufacturer. So that's basically it. Those are the three, I almost gave you the finger, but those are the three announcements. 2 development announcements of things that are coming out that we know nothing else about other than having a picture and what it's called, and now the 24 1.8 Z. We will have a news fix coming up later on this week, so be sure to tune in for that. Thank you guys very much for watching. Jared, Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.